Next on our program is Walt Hooks. Walt, as you know, most of it, he's Vice President of Sales at USTC. And he has 34 years of experience in the industry for several leaf suppliers all over the world. So, Walt, thank you for being here. He's going to tell you everything is fine. Isn't that right, Walt?
I'll do the best I can. Look, thanks everybody. Thanks for the invitation, Hank. One more thing I'd really like to start with is Tobacco Associates has done a really good job internationally. Everywhere I travel to is always a topic of conversation. Do you know, Hank? There's people who have been through classes when they come over for the 2-week course who have remained friends to this day, and they met each other 15 years ago. So it's been, that's impressive to me. You guys have built some kind of special bond between people who have come together just through this program, who work for different manufacturers and different suppliers, but it develops friendships that carries over to business, no doubt. So I've been asked to give a presentation about the flue-cured outlook as we see the industry around the world right now. I'm going to give a 30,000 foot version of it. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to waste anyone's time presenting a bunch of stuff you really don't care to hear about, like Brazil and other origins. And you guys are U.S. flue-cured farmers, and that's our job, and that's what we try to promote around the world and sell. So
That's right there.
this one. So I just want to start and make everybody aware. You basically got two types of flue-cured in the world. You've got what is referred to as filler and flavor. And the three major flavor markets in the world are Zimbabwe, Brazil, and the United States. Everything else is pretty much considered filler. And that goes into cigarette design, blend designs, the way different companies make premium cigarettes versus super value cigarettes. There's a lot of math that goes into that. But I wanted to present, if you look at the last 3 years, 23, 24, estimated 25, you take Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe, Brazil, and the U.S. kind of track with each other. You had big crops in 23, slightly reduced in 24 due to weather conditions. You know about Brazil, that crop was flooded out. You know about our situation here. Actually, Zimbabwe had the other problem. It was too dry in Zimbabwe, and is not very good crops. But what I did want to really point attention to is look at Asia, and particularly within Asia, China. China produces over 4 billion pounds per year, and that figure has remained very constant. And in China, most of all of that, the large majority of that, is kept in country and used domestically for Chinese cigarettes. If you go to North America, to the States, most of ours, up to 70% of it is exported. You guys who have contracts with Philip Morris, the World, Reynolds, PM USA I'm talking about, you can see their market share dwindling, coming down. If you look at cigarette sales in the United States, 15 years ago we had a 300 billion stick market. Right now we're just under around 177 billion, and if you look at 25, there's another expected 10% reduction in cigarette sales in the United States. So basically, who's the big buyer of U.S. flue-cured? It's China. If you guys, I can't stress enough, I don't get into plant varieties, I don't get into farming practices, but the large customer here now is China, and I think we should do everything we could to grow and supply China required quality. And the good thing about Asia, if you look across the world, cigarette consumption not only decreased in the United States, you move over into Western Europe, it's decreased even more. When you come back out through Eastern Europe, Russia, all the way up through Asia, that is the cigarette market modern day. And within that, Asia by far is the largest market in the world. And when I say Asia, I'm talking from China all the way down to Indonesia. And fortunately, U.S. Tobacco Cooperative sells to all customers in that region. And another point to point out here, if you look at what the USA is growing against the world total, someone mentioned earlier about our quality. that's a great thing because that's what people buy here is quality for flavor. A little bit of flavor sprinkled with a lot more filler makes a pretty good cigarette. But as you'll see here, our growth in North America, if you added Canada with it, we're pretty much small players in the production world across the globe. A little summary of what the world situation is right now. Please keep in mind, I put this presentation together about 4 weeks ago and presented it to our board of directors, so some of this stuff I'm stating now has already changed. But overall, in the 2025 crop production is expected to be higher than 24. Brazil crop is expected to be about 1.5 billion green pounds up. Tanzania, and I want to highlight and stop and talk about Tanzania for a minute. Tanzania is the up-and-coming market in Africa. Tanzanian flue-cured is pretty good, although it's filler, but it's reasonably priced, and that market has doubled in size in the last 2 years. I'll get to it later, but you're also seeing more and more buying companies establish operations within Tanzania. Zimbabwe expecting another good crop of around 600 billion pounds, which is actually believed to be slightly below actual demand for that crop this year. With lower than normal exports of Chinese-grown flue-cured, demand remains high in 2025 for those styles. Expected price reductions, everybody's figuring 15% down across the globe for the low to medium styles, is continuing to fuel demand. All your major multinationals will continue solid purchase programs. Independent manufacturers who were unable to obtain the requirements in 24 will be buying in 25 to replace that volume shortage. Possibility of available stocks at the end of 25, particularly in the top-end Chinese styles. And when I say Chinese, everybody knows what a B3F is. That's what they like. And in Brazil, it's expected that China will reduce their offtake in Brazil this year, so that's going to create market stocks after that crop is over with at the end of the year. Going back to your value and super value sectors, they remain extremely tight because the price of tobacco in Asia is not expected to produce these kind of lots like the tobacco industry is used to purchasing. Basically now, if you're looking at super value graded tobacco, anything below $3 a pound is considered an excellent value. You'll see some predicted pricing coming forward at the end of this presentation, but right now the U.S., we're in a market where, as you see, $3 for super value, you'll go through, but we're basically, with our cost base, we're at the $5 a pound range. And that is basically, in the old rule of thumb, if you pay $2.50 a pound, take your green price, double it, that's what you should be settling for. So that puts you in the $5 hole. Chinese flue-cured from China remains difficult to source, and that is not predicted to see a change. Brazilian, this is hurting the United States. The FOB pricing in Brazil will ease in all sectors, not only value. Byproducts, stem, scrap, are exceptionally high demand. The world market has no availability of byproducts now because now every major manufacturer, except China, take their entitlement byproducts with them. We'll go to an update on Brazil update. Again, 1.5 billion green pounds expected, which is 45% increase over last year, which was 1 billion pounds due to the weather situation. There's estimated old crop available in Brazil. I think this number is actually low, and I think that tobacco will be sold in this year's crop simply because, as I said earlier, a lot of your major manufacturers who went short out of last year's crop went into this crop trying to replace that. So 30% of what went in the ground this year was basically pre-sold in Brazil. And basically, they are expected to get a crop because the La Nina effect is not an issue. Very little old crop inventory, as I said. Increased crop size to soften demand across all silos. Cost of production remains stable. Because of the U.S. dollar to the Brazilian real exchange rate, last year that rate was estimated between 5.90 to 6 as an exchange rate. This year it's 6%. Last year was around 4.95, which is a 21% increase. So Brazilian tobacco is going to be cheaper. Go to Zimbabwe. Again, Zimbabwe's back up to around 600 million pounds. 24 crop was at 500. They are experiencing issues with curing due to power outages. In crop year 25, rainfall so far has been normal. Zimbabwe is expecting normal to above rainfall throughout the season. Basically, they're expecting good growing conditions because of the same La Nina effect as Brazil. Commercial growers seem to have enough irrigation to supplement any lack of rainfall, and full-scale packing of green leaf is expected beginning in the middle of May. Again, no inventory. Basically, the world sold out of flue-cured tobacco, even us. There's no inventory here in the United States. We are currently trying to market the 2024 crop, which was actually just finished packing a month ago. So that crop is being marketed now. 25 crop in Zimbabwe is expected to increase quantity again due to better forecasted growing conditions. Demand is actually more than what the crop will generate. And the green average for flue-cured there is expected to hold, if not actually be a little bit cheaper than the previous year. It's too early to forecast, but again, that crop should be producing the cleaner B3F styles that China prefers. And again, China is the biggest buyer of Zimbabwean flue-cured. Tanzania. Again, their crop is up to 300, up from 255 million from last year. The grower targeted green price to be $2.10 per kilo, which is 95 cents per green pound. So obviously much cheaper than anywhere in the world for that matter. Zero inventory in Tanzania. The number of buying companies have increased to 18. 4 new companies came online just this year. And again, a high expected demand. Now, what I did here is I know everyone in here is familiar with USDA standard grades. So what I tried to do here was kind of illustrate what 25 crop pricing is expected to be. So you can see here, Brazil, Zimbabwe, Tanzania. And as I said earlier, we are trying to market our crop for $5 a pound, and it's very hard to compete against the world market with these prices at lower cost base. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Well, I've got one.
Yes, sir.
You're on the spot, but have you heard anything? You got to speak about the elephant in the room. Have you heard any threats or any talk? Maybe this is a question for Sean Harden and the Chinese about tariff wars.
Stanley? Not to put you on the spot, Stanley. Stanley's here. He works with CPI North America. We had a meeting on Monday, and they brought it up to us. I hadn't even heard about it. It was not in our news. Those guys had heard it from head office, correct? So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, honestly.
Well, I don't either, but I tell you, it's something to think about.
It scares me to death. I mean, really, it's scary. I mean, you know what we went through in 2018 and 19. I mean, that cannot happen. That cannot happen. I mean, you're talking about I don't know how companies actually survive the last trade war. I mean, if we have another one, I mean, I see companies going bankrupt, to be honest.
Thank you, sir.
No, what do you think, Rick?
I think that they retaliate to certainly food, I don't know about food, but anything else probably is on the table. They'll retaliate.
Yep.
What happened?
Yeah.
What it's worth.
Yeah, and it's, I mean,
He was showing, like I say, he's been talking about it, he's been in Washington, maybe he's heard something, I don't know. It's certainly something to think about.
Anybody tells you what's going to knows what's going to happen in mine. First of all, a couple of things to remember. Try to put some positivity in the room. Mr. Trump's all about making a deal, and so these are threats, okay? And so he'll try to make a deal. I'm talking mainly about Mexico and Canada. And he also, I heard this yesterday, and I'll share this with you, because you mentioned Indonesia. Mm-hmm. He also is about leveling the trade partnership with countries. And that's what this is all about. We've gotten way out of whack with some of these countries where we're importing a lot more than we're exporting. So the new trade administration was just announced, USTR, and the first thing they want to do is to go into new countries and make deals. And they mentioned Indonesia as one of those. So again, that goes back to what I said in the beginning. We got to be looking for new markets, and I know China's a huge market, certainly a big part of what's backing it. But I think we got to be looking for new markets for all our products. So.
yeah, and to your point, but if you going back to what I was talking about, cigarette usage across the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Asia. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Asia,
Yeah.
Russia, former Soviet Union states. That's it. Anyway, thank you, everybody.